You're listening to the Beyond Podcast with your host, Timmy Riggs. In this episode, I sat down with Pastor Lewis McLean, a longtime pastor at BFC and an incredible human being. We just talked about the ways in which God helps develop us over our years to be an overcomer. I hope you enjoy. Well, what's up, guys? I'm Timmy Riggs. This is the Beyond Podcast, and I'm here today with, someone I love a lot and someone that a lot of people love a lot of people love a lot, for real. And that is Pastor Lewis McLean. So, Lewis, thanks for being on here with us.
Thank you. I'm kind of looking forward to it. A little bit scared, a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I get it. I know. I always feel a little angsty too. A couple things. Let me just intro Lou. Lewis, you feel good about telling your age? Is that okay?
Oh my goodness, 67.
67. So I'm 27. So you got 40 years of true experience on me, and you share it well, you know. And you're such an encourager. And even last night, as I was falling asleep, I was like, "Hey, I'm interviewing Lewis tomorrow. I hope I don't cry. I'm serious because there's just so many times where I think about you, and I wish we were closer. But as close as we are, still, I'm just like he's influential in my life as a mentor that will go down for the rest of my life as someone that shaped a lot of who I want to be. I've heard, I'm going to stop talking in a second, but I've heard where people say, I want to be like Jesus, but Lewis McLean will do. And that's exactly how I feel about it. But, so 67, you like sports. Tell us about some of the activities that you still get after.
Oh, my goodness. Well, of course, I always watch sports on TV, but what I really enjoy doing, there's two sports. And one is cycling. And I got into cycling probably about 30 years ago. And it's my escape. I get on my bike and I go riding out by the lake or on a trail, and that's where God probably gives medicine to my soul, the best place. The other sport I like is tennis. And I started playing tennis when I was in college, and I took a little bit of a break from tennis when I had children. And one time, my wife's eye was twitching, and we had to make a decision on priorities. I chose to stop playing tennis for about 10 years.
Wow!
And then Rita, when the kids got a little older, she said, "You can go back to playing tennis now." But that was one of those marriage-saving decisions that I made. But tennis is just real fun. I play maybe once a week. Get out there and play doubles, have a good time.
That's so cool. And so the marriage thing, that's fun because you've listened to a couple of my stories and counseled us through some things. Remember the one time in our little cafeteria, I went on some big long story, and I can't even. Ultimately, your bottom line was to love her and to listen and whatever. But such good counsel. Do you golf? Have you ever gotten?
I golf once every 3 years, whether I need to or not.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got a set of clubs someone gave me, and so, but no, I don't. I might pick that up in the future, but right now, tennis and cycling keep me busy.
That's so good. I love that you stay active. That's my goal when it comes to health and working out and stuff. Is that it's not so much of how buff can I get, whatever, at 27. It's how can I make sure that at 67 I'm still active.
Alive is what I'm really shooting for.
Playing with my grandkids like you, playing tennis, riding my bike. Okay, so and this is our last little bit of introduction. You have been a pastor for a long time, but also have been a pastor here, and you have even done. So right now I have a lot of focus on our online department and some of our college department, and you also did college here, and tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about the message.
I was a lay person. I was in hospital administration. I had no training or preparation for ministry. And right in the middle of all that, I was a lay person, and I taught high school, taught college Bible studies and stuff, and just that's the way I thought I was going to do. And God just kind of changed directions right in the middle of all that, and said, I want you to join the staff at BFC. So that was 37 years of ministry off and on. I worked with high school and for about 1.5 years, and then university for about 8.5 years, and then went back into hospital administration. and got my master's in business. Well, then the church hired me as a business administrator. Did that for about 10 years. And then now I've been kind of what they call executive pastor for quite a few years. And so this is home. This is the church I grew up in, and it's real rare you get to serve all these years in one place.
Yeah.
And so,
man, that's so cool, and I think that speaks to just your story. Just you're consistent. You know, that is such an attribute. You know, I remember listening to a pastor one time, and he was like, you know what? When you're looking for a spouse, or you're working through your relationship with your spouse, like, you know what? One attribute is just really attractive, and he's like, that's consistency. It's like, not you stop caring about some of these other things, you know, because you just want a life that is consistent, and that's something that you're great at, and so I love that. So let's get into the message. Pastor Rick preached an absolute wonderful message to wrap up our Overcomer series. And when I was thinking through, hey, who can I interview and talk to about these messages, you came to my mind. Just the idea of being an overcomer. I don't know your whole story, and I don't know if you've necessarily had a whole bunch of mountains to climb, but again, it's that consistency. Just day in, day out, Lewis is going to overcome any small or big obstacle in his way. And so, you know, Rick kind of asked us in the beginning of his message here, and as you can see it in my notes, would you describe yourself as a victim or a victor, or an overcomer or being overcome? And I have the answer for you, but just what do you think, and how have you gotten there in life?
I think as I was raised, I think both my parents were just so positive. And they had goals, and they said some things, and I think they also said, do one day at a time. And my dad was an overcomer, just the different things that he had to face in his life, and I caught it. I just caught it from him that's how I'm supposed to view. I mean, just don't let the outside circumstances control who you are, but just be an overcomer. And as you face maybe a small problem, you see it, okay, I can overcome that small problem. I can fix that problem. Or sometimes I've had to face some big mountains. And I've noticed that it's not a sprint. It's always more like a marathon.
How long did it take for you to get to that? Because most of my life, I'm always trying to get to the next thing. And I actually have a little phrase that I hold on to, in the meantime, right? Because I want to make sure that I'm living in the meantime.
Yes.
It's so easy for me.
Yeah.
So what kind of tips do you have, and when did you really kick that in to helping some of us who are a little bit, I got to get to the next thing, live, you know, in day to day?
Well, let me just tell you the truth. A lot of the things that have happened to me, it was God. I mean, a lot of the things that have come to me, it wasn't me, okay, that's what I want to do, that's what I want to be. I mean, this is kind of like almost anti the motivational approach to it.
Yeah.
But what has happened as I've just kind of learned some of the basic principles of how you deal with people and how you treat people. God was teaching me way back as a kid. I said, and he taught me, treat people with respect. Look at the person that doesn't have a friend and love them. Spend time with people other people don't spend with. And I felt like that was a directive from God. I said, I can do that. I can do that. And as I've done that, all of a sudden, this door opens. And then that door leads to another. And that door leads to another. And so as I have followed Christ in the small things of life, I mean, doors have opened up to me that I really weren't knocking on. And they've been far better than maybe the temporary dreams that I might have been kind of wrestling with. Okay, I think I can do this, I can do this. He has just opened up my life. And it's been open doors that I look back and say, wow, wow. And it came from just taking on the very nature of God.
Yeah.
Not so much reaching a goal. And
that's so much different than so many other pieces of advice out there, like you said, Lewis McLean, not your guru, but you should listen to him, right? I think that's so good. You're just saying, man, you just stumbled into the next thing.
If I really do believe that God has this unbelievable plan. Scripture after Scripture says his ideas are so far higher than ours. And so I think somewhere along the line I relaxed with that, and I said, I'm good. I'm good with whatever you got planned. And so I'll do what you choose and direct me to do today. One of the weird things, I remember, I don't know why this popped into my head.
No, I like it.
But about 20 years ago, I was sitting at the church and I was saying, I'm wanting to do some big stuff for God. And God, I'm just laying this day to you. Help me make some plans for the next 5 years here at BFC. And as I was kind of wrestling with that in my office, he said, why don't you go to lunch? And so I went to lunch, and as I was getting to the lunch, I was driving down MacArthur, heading south toward 39th, and he said, pay attention to this lady over here. And it's a little lady with a kind of a sailor's hat on, and you can kind of tell fear's on her face. And our windows are rolled down, and I said, can I help you? And we're driving down 35 miles an hour. I'm lost. I'm lost. He said, pull over. I'll help you. And we both pull over there on MacArthur, and I get out of my car and I go talk to her. And
so she was in her car next to you?
She was in a car next to her. We're going down the road 35 miles an hour.
Speed now.
And so now we've stopped. And she said, I'm confused. I'm lost. I don't know how to get where I need to go. And she told me where she needed to go. And I said, I tell you what, you just follow me. You just follow me, and then when we get close, there'll be one left turn, and then you'll be where you need to go. And so 15 minutes later, she found where she needed to be, and I turned around and drove back to the office. He said, Lewis, this is God talking to me. That's the most important thing you're going to accomplish today. You were an answer to that lady's prayer, and because you listened to me, that's the way you're to live.
And that's you. Like that is Lewis in a full, like one little story that you probably have thousands like that. It's just, you're so quick to get to, like, just jump on and help people. And I want to be more like that. I don't feel like I have that trait. Many times, Lewis, I remember in college, I did some student organization things, student government stuff, and I remember we'd get to an event and I'd say, okay, let me find the hardest job here, and at the end of the night, I'm going to make sure I avoid that with everything in me, right? That was literally me. Here was the thing, though. It's like God, his sense of humor would always kick in. I would end up getting appointed and have to be the person. So it wasn't like I had this goodwill, like I'm going to take the hardest job. It was like Jonah, running from it, and I ended up having to do it anyway, Probably because everybody else was avoiding it. But that's what you do, You look out, and so what I'm hearing is, I love this. We're in the beginning part of kind of what Pastor Rick talked about, and you're just saying, hey, one of the ways that you can really lean into an overcomer life when following Jesus is listening to the words of, hey, man plans his ways, but God directs his paths. I'm always planning my ways, and then 6 months later they change because of the way that God's having things change. When Jesus says, hey, don't worry, everything, I've talked about this with Pastor Rick, but like everything that you are hoping for or whatever, or you need, I'm going to provide, especially your needs, if you lean into me and trust me. I don't want to take too much time, but I'll say even in 2020, I have been someone that most of my days, I wake up with some kind of motivational quote in my head. I'm ready to go, I'm ready to get after it. I want to work hard. I want to think of new ideas. I could have 13 new ideas by lunch, I could start the next thing. I could get it going. That's always how I've been. And this summer, was the first time we had a couple things, personally that kind of weren't expecting, Em and I, and then just COVID and so many different things. Everyone was trying to figure out how to do their job better, and we were shifting around, and then just feeling like I don't have much to offer. And this isn't a pity party, but it was the first time in my life, I would say in June, where I woke up and I felt foggy. I felt I'm not myself. I don't feel like an overcomer. And I've never been depressed. I wasn't in that moment. But right then, I've always been a little, not skeptical. I believe depression's a real thing. But I've always been like, well, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps, whatever. Yeah. And this was the first time that I felt like, I see how it could happen. I see how it doesn't mean someone's weak, Yeah. It just, they feel foggy. And by the grace of God, literally he just kept pouring into me and seeking, him and all that. Has there been a moment for you where maybe that's kind of happened and you've felt like, hey, I believe I can be an overcomer, but I'm feeling overcome?
I think as I look back on it, God has usually, I would use the word preparation. He was preparing me for the next open door. In some ways, God has prepared me for the next open door by taking maybe my passion, or maybe to put me in a kind of a uncomfortable, well, this is not the right place to be. And when I'm there, I remember right before I started working in ministry, there was about 3 or 4 months where I just knew hospital administration was not fulfilling to me at that point. And I just, what do I do? What do I do? And it's like God said, let's not rush to the next open door. Matter of fact, I'm going to prepare your heart for what's coming. And there was about 3 months where it was dry, and it was just keep on seeking me, keep on seeking me, keep on seeking me. And so when the door came open, it was like, a person offered me the job, and they said, well, I know you need to pray about this. They said, God has been preparing me for this open door for 3 or 4 months. I don't even have to pray about it. It's like, I can feel this is what God has been getting me ready for.
Yeah.
And so the dry times in between are not bad. Matter of fact, it might be some of the best growing times in our lives, closeness with God.
Man, I agree with that. I think that even this year, like that turnaround of being like, I think that's what changed. I'm all over the place, but helped change my perspective a little bit. Yeah. And that's why this year I've gone into it. Hey, I'm gonna live the Lewis way. I'm gonna invest in each day. I don't have to worry what's gonna happen in May. I don't know what's gonna happen in August. And a lot of people are living there for other reasons. A lot of people have a lot of fears. You and I talked about it this morning. People are letting so much noise of politics just live in their minds and their hearts. And we always say, you got to be informed. You got to know what's going on, but you can't let trash into your heart and life, or that's going to be what's coming out as well, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, you're so pastoral in this way. Let's say someone's listening and they are like, hey, I'm in this dry season, but Lewis, I don't have any relationship with God. I don't know, where do you even begin to think of trusting God in prayer? This seems foreign to me, but yet maybe they're in that dry, I'm feeling overcome, whatever. What would be the next steps for them, you know? And maybe we don't know them yet, but someone sent them this podcast. Like, how can they lean into God if this is their first time ever giving it a go?
Yeah. Don't do something that's just totally weird for you. Probably find something that's totally natural. What do you do right now? Do you enjoy going for a walk at the park? Do you enjoy riding your bicycle? Do you enjoy reading? He's probably going to use the things that your natural rhythms, even right now. And so for me, I noticed that there were some very significant times where I drew close and kind of understood and could hear God by just going for walks. well, my wife and I, we were kind of facing our first pregnancy. And so we made it a habit to, we didn't have any money, to meet at a local park, have our sack lunch, eat the sack lunch, and then we were walking around the park for about 45 minutes and just talking to God with our eyes open. So,
yeah.
And so, that way when we pass someone, we kind of stop talking to God, and be kind of quiet, and then we'd start talking to him again. But we have our eyes open, and I would just say, Lord, we're getting ready to have this baby. We want to pray that you would bless this baby. And then we'd walk a little bit longer, and then we'd kind of listen, and then Rita would say something to God about the baby. And as we started doing these walks, we found out, he started just kind of directing us. And that was kind of new for us. And after a few weeks, he said, don't pray for the baby anymore. Pray for you to be parents to this baby. And a few months later, we had Curtis, Sweet Seed, and we found out that during that time, he wanted to teach us how to be the perfect parent for the boy he was given us. And so, not to pray that it would be, everyone tries to pray, well, we want to have a healthy, normal child. There's no such thing as normal, I found out.
Yeah, anybody, right?
There's no such thing as normal. Nobody's normal.
That's right.
And so, so I think for us, just going for a walk was natural. Or if, like when I ride my bike, I get on there and I tune out everything. And I'm just listening. So start with just what comes natural for you to get away.
I think that's so good. So I think that a lot of times, maybe if this person is just, hey, I'm not involved in the church, churches scare me, I was hurt by the church, they said I had to do it a certain way, whatever. You're taught you got to have 30 Father Gods in your prayer. You got to open it up with the robust God of the nations, right? Like, no, instead of just this conversation of, I think if you're doing, are you messing around in your garden? Are you on a run? Are you on your bike? And if this is the first time you're like ever trying to talk with God, I think literally just say, hey, I haven't done this before, but God, I'm in this spot. I would sure love to feel you, to know that your grace is there, that your love is around me. Can you help? Can you open up a door? And you might think it's a coincidence, but I promise you, probably in the next week or two, some kind of thing is going to happen.
He's going to show up.
Yeah.
He will show up.
And I feel, it's just so that's what we believe, and I know he'll do it. He's done it for us, and so I think that's good, and I just want to encourage you. Even you could be skeptical of everything Lewis and I have said and believe, and you can say, well, you guys just have chosen a good outlook on life. You're absolutely right. And we're going to lean into that because we've seen God be faithful, and we encourage you to do that. And so even if you're skeptical, I'd say give it a try, you know. And what's the alternative? That's what you and I were talking about right before we started. If I have the option, I'm gonna go for it, Yes. So let's lean in. Yeah. This is great. We're flying through it. I want to at least talk about this part. Pastor Rick talked about a lot of different things. He used Paul as an illustration. That's a guy in Scripture who wasn't a Christian at all, turned into a Christian, became one of the main leaders of God's church in the beginnings, and was also beat up a lot, tortured. A lot of religious leaders of different sects didn't like him. And he had to fight through. And Pastor Rick reminded us that your ability to be an overcomer depends majorly on what you're aiming for. And so Paul was not aiming for recognition, and he wasn't aiming for a problem-free life. Yeah. How have you seen this play out in your life? Yeah. And what are some examples?
I think about 15 years ago, I realized at a coffee shop, I was sitting there and we were doing some reading, and I think I had learned a lot of things during the years, but a significant thing happened there, and it's like God's Spirit said, you got to change the way you think. And I said, well, what do you mean change the way I think? I said, you spend way too much of your energy trying to please people. You just that should not be the target, is pleasing people. I mean, you don't go out and displease people. I mean, so but he knew I'd leaned way heavy to trying to please people all the time, and it was controlling me. And he said, let me teach you the freedom that I want you to experience. You are not made to be a slave to the opinions of other people. And so I began to allow God to show me specifically when someone would call and ask me to do something, and I already had 30 things on my schedule, and I just felt God's Spirit say, no, this is not a priority for you.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me to say no, And he said, you learn to say yes to me. And I'm not saying you tell everyone no and you don't try to, work with people, but if you try to please me, we'll take care of everything else. It'll take care of it. Matter of fact, your life will be much more free, much more relaxed. You won't be so uptight, and you will enjoy a rhythm of living that you are made to live. And so I have been practicing that. Now, and I got 100% there, but I think I've made it 76% there. 76%. So I'm really changing.
Yeah.
And it's changed who I am. And I think Rita's noticed that, and some other people have noticed that in a good way.
Yeah. I love that, Lou. Man, I had a couple thoughts when you were talking because it was just so good. But, I think that one way out of that, hey, how can I not be so much of a people pleaser? It's hard, especially your disposition of, hey, I want to help people. I want people to know that they're loved by me. You can feel like you have to say yes to everything, right? Brighton,
yes.
One of my best friends and pastor on staff now, one of the years and in prior years, and I don't think he'll care me sharing the story, but he was kind of saying, hey, I want to work on this. I love people, I care about them, but people pleasing is killing me. And he just said, I'm going to need help. And I said, hey, this is perfect. Let me be the guy. When I call and ask you a favor, just say no. Even if you can say yes. Practice it. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Literally. I have really thick skin when it comes to that stuff. So say no to me to get the practice under your belt. And there was a couple times he did, And did I beat him up for it? Sure. But, he was able to get some practice there. So I would say find that person that loves you more than they love you pleasing them, right? And that will, and tell them, hey, I need you to be my no person. I'm going to say no to you when you ask me for something because I need to grow that muscle,
Yes.
And I think that'll help. I think it might have helped Brighton. I don't know. We'll have to ask him one of these days. But the other thing I was going to say, when it comes to God and that thing of God saying, hey, Lou, if you work on pleasing me, your life's going to be better. When we hear obedience and pleasing to God, it can sometimes be oh, I'm the slave. No. Anything that you do to please God, God has created, divinely inspired everything to where when you're pleasing Him, like you said, it makes your life better. This isn't prosperity gospel. This is kingdom life. It is when we lean in to Jesus, He's going to make our life better, and He's going to make us better at life. I love that line. And so it's not just about, well, I got to do this. I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to suffer through this. No. I believe that the grace gets poured out, and it's just, hey, I can't imagine not living this way ever again. This is incredible, right?
Yes.
I don't know. That's just what I've seen, and that's how I've lived, and I want to continue to live into that. That's the whole point of why this podcast is the Beyond Podcast.
Yeah.
Jesus offers a life beyond anything that we can imagine. I believe it.
Yes. I was talking a little bit about this in a sermon a couple weeks ago. And
that sermon, if you guys haven't heard Lewis's sermon, it was phenomenal. One of the best sermons I've ever heard.
Well,
BethanyNaz.org/watch, Lewis McLean, first sermon of the year. It fired me up. I loved at the end. I'm sorry I cut you off, but you just literally, never give up. I'm about to march out of here right now. All right, go ahead.
But I think, I learned a whole different perspective of obedience. If we embrace those truths of forgiving people, of loving people, of serving people, of not being selfish. There are so many. I mean, when you pray, don't do it for attention. When you're generous, don't do it for attention. I mean, there's some principles there that you say, because I love God, I just think He loves me so much. He's wanting to give me some clues to how to live my life and how to live with other people in a way that we are made to live.
Yeah.
And so it's not so much obedience that, wrong, right. It's obedience is, hey, let me give you some insight that will be unbelievable. Your marriage will be blessed. Your family will be blessed. Your wherever you work, it'll be blessed. I mean, as you learn some of these things I'm teaching you, so I'm learning that, my goodness, all this is because I'm loved. All these guidances, these powerful laws are given to me because He loves me.
Yeah. Man, that's so good. So we'll get close to wrapping it up, but combined with that is I've talked about this idea of being an enhancer. The person that comes in to enhance the room.
Yes.
That's you. And I think that was Jesus. And I think that the closer we get to Jesus, the more we become that enhancer.
Yes.
The person that lights up the room when they walk in, not when they walk out.
Yeah.
And those are the things of when you live in obedience, that's the stuff, that's the outcome, that's the fruit. It's not... we already just nailed it, but, it's this idea of, hey, God is going to open doors. He's going to continue to move us in the right direction. I don't know. Is there anything else you had on your mind? I mean, there was a lot in the sermon yesterday. I would say, hey, if you're interested, if you haven't heard it, if you want to send it to a friend, Pastor Rick preached such a great message, and you can find that at bethanynaz.org. What's something? Hit us with a little bit of encouragement. That was the final one for our Overcomer series, and hit us with a 1-2 minute tag of just get me fired up, Coach. Hit me with it.
Today, God has an unbelievable kingdom part that I'm supposed to be a part of. And I get to be an answer to someone's prayer, like the little lady in the car. As I join in, and as I'm looking at, okay, God, I want to be like you, and I want to go where you're working, and maybe you're working ahead of me. Can I just embrace that so much that you would lead me to where you're getting ready to do something that's big? I have a friend, Stadius, and when I run into people, I say, well, how can I meet their needs? And he said, oh my, the first thing I do is that I pray. I sit down and pray with them. And so basically it's saying God can fix a person. God can fix a situation so much better than Lewis McLean can. So why don't I just join in? Why don't I just join in with what he's doing instead of making all the plans myself?
Yeah, that's so good. So just saying, hey, there's already a train moving. Let me just hop on it.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, Lewis, thanks for taking the time with us today. And we believe, Lewis and I are big believers, that a life with Jesus is beyond anything we can imagine, right? And we want everyone to be a part of this life. And you can either feel completely overcome or you can be an overcomer. And we think a huge step in that is living day to day in the meantime with Jesus. And so thanks for listening. And we encourage you to continue to hear every week, to check out the sermons on Sundays, and to share with your friends. All right. Thanks, guys.